shoulders drop back into the floor, let the back of the skull rest on the floor. Have your skull angled so that your chin is not pointing up towards the ceiling. Point the chin down the line of your body. Pillow in at the back of the head to give you a little bit of lift if you find that you just keep looking back the way and your chin keeps floating up. Take support where you need it. Let the shoulder blades drop towards the floor so the chest is open. Let's tuck the ribs in, bring the pelvis into a neutral position, the feet and the knees are hip width apart. And just notice how that feels today coming into that alignment. So regardless of how experienced you are in doing Pilates, this can change every single time you do this move or you come into this position, depending on what you have done in the days in the week prior to doing this session. Just observe how things feel. Now, can we get those contact points? So active through the arches, pelvis stable, spine stable, ribs stable, shoulder blades anchored, back of the neck long. We've got those connection points, we're getting the muscles switched on here. So thinking about that exhaling activation. Really simple move, single leg slide, opposite arm and leg, lengthening out towards the short, to the long, lengthening out long towards the short ends of your mat. Bringing it back in, reconnect to the floor, do the same thing on the other side. So we can use this as a quick check-in. How connected do we feel to our bodies today? How stable do we feel in our bodies today? And then depending on the feedback that you're getting today, where do you want to take this move? Do you want to stay here and just really work on stabilising as you come in and out? Do you want to make the move a little bit bigger by stepping the foot up as you go out? Do you want to add a little bit of weight into the upper body? So maybe you pick up your hand weights and add that in. Do you want to bring your legs up into tabletop and work from there as you go from one side to the other? Whatever version of this you're doing, we're always checking back in. What's going on at the pelvis, what's going on at the ribs, what's going on at the spine. If we start wobbling about, we're not getting the benefit of the exercise, so always bring it back to where you are feeling that things are stabilising and build strength at that point, rather than trying to force it forward. And that sometimes means that you add a little bit of weight in, do a couple of reps with tabletop and then bring it back and go back to feet on the floor, no weights, and work there for a couple of reps. So listen to your body, respond to the feedback. Now at your end point, on the next one, we're going to add in a little bit of sideways movement. So extend out to the long point and then take your hands towards the corner of the mat, the leg out towards the opposite corner. Bring it back and all the way in. So again, you might do this, bringing it right back to the most basic version. No weight, feet on the floor. See how that feels to add in. So when you're taking the leg out, keep your toes pointing to the ceiling so that you're not rolling out on the thigh. We want to activate the muscles around the sides of the thigh. The same when we're taking the hand out. Not rolling through the palm or rolling through the shoulder, moving out to the side. And then do you want to add anything into that? So maybe you keep the leg hovering off the floor, maybe you add a little bit of weight in. But again, check for the feedback. Do you feel stable doing that? Do you need to make any adaptations? And let's go for one more of these to each side. And when you've done that last one, a release, any movement that feels good. We're going to go into spine rotation next. So just like we did with that last exercise, we're going to start with the most basic version and then see if you want to add other things on. So most basic version, elbows out wide, hands onto the ribs, legs squeezed against each other. Hands are on the ribs to stabilise the ribs so that the rotation's coming from the waist. We're squeezing the legs together so that when the legs move as one unit and they don't slide away from each other. Anchor the shoulder blades down into the floor and then start to take the knees towards one side, keeping the opposite shoulder pinned down. So this twist is coming from the waist to draw in through the waist, and then squeeze and bring that back into the centre. Do the same thing off to the other side. So notice how much control you have as you go through this movement. As long as the ribs are staying still, maybe you take your hands away from the ribs and just check that you've still got that range of motion. If you're really tight in your waist, then your ribs will be wanting to follow, in which case use your hands as an anchor to help get the stretch in the muscles. And then once you feel that you've got a little bit more freedom in the movement, maybe you take your hands away and anchor the arms down into the floor as you go from one side to the other. Maybe you want to get a bit deeper into the movement, where we can bring the arms away from the floor, fingers point to the ceiling. The shoulder blades are still anchored down as the knees go to the right. The left arm comes down to the floor, right arm stays pointing to the ceiling. We bring that back up, take it over to the other side, same thing. Anchor the shoulder to the floor. You might then add in some light weights. If you are adding in weights, make sure as your arms coming down to the floor, there's a very slight bend in the elbow so that you don't overextend through the elbow joint and cause yourself long-term harm. You might want to take the feet hip width and pop your ball in between your thighs so that you're putting a bit more weight through the waist. And you can do that with the arms in any position. Just make sure that the legs stay parallel to each other. If you put the ball between the legs, you don't let the feet close in and rest on each other. Keep the feet parallel, that's going to help work the outer thigh and the hips. You might want to bring your feet away from the floor. And they can be anywhere from tip of the toes just touching on the floor to the feet pointing up towards the ceiling. The higher the feet go, the more load you're putting through the waist. But we still want to keep these ribs anchored so that the twist is coming from the waist. As soon as the ribs start pulling up and away, you're not getting that same work into the waist muscles. So take the variation that feels right, and like the last exercise, you can do a couple of one variation and then change it up. Listen to the feedback. Check those connection points to the floor. So is the skull still angled so the chin's pointing down the body? Are the shoulder blades anchoring down? Are the ribs tucked in? Are we getting that engagement in the lower half of the body, either by squeezing the legs together or using the ball between the legs, squeezing into the ball? Let's go for one more to each side. When you come back to the centre, any movement that feels nice here. Bring the feet back to the floor, feet and knees to hip width apart. Refine those connection points. So anchor through the tripod points, pelvis is in neutral, ribs are tucked in, spine is long, skull angled. Let's bring our hands together, press the palms against each other and take the arms overhead. So hands are kind of in prayer position, you're pressing the palms right in against each other. That's going to help activate the muscles in the arms and the shoulders. You're then going to lengthen one leg out with the toe pointed. Now when the leg's lengthened out, have the thighs level with each other. Take an inhale. As you're exhaling, we're pressing the hands together as we start to bring the arms over. Your head might lift off the floor, but only if your neck stays relaxed. Have the back of your tongue have your tongue rested into the roof of the mouth at the soft palate like we did earlier. We're taking the hands to the outside of that long leg. Keep pressing them together as you bring the arms overhead and we take it back to the floor. On the next exhale, we're coming up, pressing the hands between the legs. Keep pressing the hands together, take it back, and then to the outside. Keep pressing the hands together, take it back. Bend that knee, bring that foot onto the floor, lengthen the other leg out. So point the toes will really help activate and stimulate the muscles. So we come up, we twist to the outside of that long leg. We bring it back. We come up, we press the hands through the centre. We take it back. We twist to the outside of the bent leg. We bring it back. Now we're going to repeat that. You could keep going with that version, or if you wanted to, you could bring a light weight, holding the weight between your hands. So lengthen the leg out, bring up, twist to the outside, take it back, up between the centre, check that you're not tensing your jaw or neck, control it back, once to the outside, take it back, bend that knee, switch legs again, squeeze and press that toe away, really work the thigh muscles, one to the outside, one to the middle, one to the other outside. Now if you can, let's do one more round of that to each side. So up, leg lengthened out, we're lifting and twisting, and one up through the centre, and one to the outside. And when you come back, last time, switching the leg up to the outside, up to the centre, up to the outside, and then let that rest down, give your body whatever movement feels nice here. Have a release and stretch, move things around. Right, let us get in some shoulder bridges. So let's start like we have done with each of the exercises. Basic shoulder bridge. Get your knees bent, feet in position. We can find the tripod points. Feet and knees are about hip width apart. Pelvis roughly in a neutral position, spine long, shoulder blades pressed down. And then when you're ready on your exhale, think about that exhale activation, flatten the lower back in to tuck the tailbone, backside engages, and then start to lift the spine away from the floor, pressing the feet and the shoulder blades down so that we keep the muscles connected all the way through. When you're as high as feels okay, tailbone stays tucked. Inhale at the top. As you're exhaling, roll the spine back down, trying to shift your backside towards the heels, looking for that length. Now check what's happened at your head, that your head hasn't been bobbing around. Keep the back of the neck long. So rolling up, get that connection, notice the movement. Now quite often when we do a shoulder bridge, we do it much earlier in class, so it might feel different as you're doing this today. So options here. Do you want to bring the ball in between the thighs to help get more leg activation as we're coming up? So the ball squeezing in really can help with that connection in the lower half of the body if you're struggling to feel the muscles working. And if you feel like you're wobbling about as you come up, the ball can really help stabilise. Now the next time we come up, you might stay at the top, hold here, make sure that the tailbone stays tucked under and pulse the knees into the ball. So maybe pulsing for about 10 pulses. If you're pulsing, we've got another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take an inhale at the top, exhale, roll that all the way back down. So if that felt nice and that's the option that you want to go with, we can go with that. The next option, coming up, holding, anchoring the shoulder blades down, keeping the pelvis in position, extend the leg out, point the toes, squeeze the thigh really tight, bring that down, do the same thing on the other side. Now just make sure if you do a single leg that the hip doesn't drop. Bring it in and then roll it back down. Next option would be coming up, and instead of pointing the toe, flexing the ankle, so pushing out through the sole of the foot and bringing it down. That works the leg muscles slightly differently as you've extended out. Just make sure that the pelvis doesn't drop and then bringing it back down. Option that you can bring into the upper body as the hips are coming up, bringing the arms up and over. So that'll give you more length through the front of the body. As the hips are coming back, your hands can come back with it. You could add in some weight here. You could bring in your hand weight. So now if you're doing that, slight bend in the elbow to protect the elbow joints all the way through. If you feel super stable doing shoulder bridge and you get to the top with the arms overhead, you could hold here and then do a little bit of wobbly single leg work. So shifting there, and then as the hips come back down, bring the arms down. Or you could come up and over, hold the hands over and then do those little pulses in. So we're going to do another 3 shoulder bridges after this one. Whatever version or variation that feels right for you today. And it might be that you do one of 3 different ones. It might be that you go back to basics and think, actually I've tried all of those and I'm quite tired now and I'm shifting about. I want to do 3 really good, really quality basic shoulder bridges. Whatever you choose is entirely up to you. Listen to your body, respond to the feedback it's giving you. What does your body need? And it might be that you think, I cannot do another 3 shoulder bridges, which is only 2 now, including this one. But if you need to take a breather, that's what you do. So if you're still going, we've got one last shoulder bridge to go. Whatever version of it, whatever variation feels good for you. But make it high quality. And then when you're finished, take a breather, have a stretch, have a release.